You're listening to Chrysalis Color, the podcast. Hello, this is Jorunn from Norway.
And Christine in Canada.
With a podcast about color analysis and how it applies to you in a practical way. We'll talk about how to use your colors to make your days brighter, your wardrobe more enjoyable, and your life easier.
We'll talk about topics that we find interesting, and we encourage you to submit your questions. A podcast listing is available at chrysaliscolor.com under the Podcasts tab.
Welcome to episode 13, Beautiful Silver. Before we begin, I want to say that our listeners might think we've fallen off our rockers here talking about naturally silver hair in an episode that's about hair coloring. But if you bear with us for a little while, this episode is definitely about coloring your hair as well. Just keep listening.
And once again, in this episode, as with all of our hair color shows, we extend our sincere thanks to Courtenay St. John of Studio St. John in Massachusetts, and we will link to Courtenay's information in the show notes.
In the last episode, we addressed how to solve hair coloring mistakes, and we begin this episode by mentioning something that's definitely not a mistake. The most empowering and sophisticated look a mature woman can have. Her own glossy, healthy silver hair cut in a great hairstyle.
Yeah, we added this show to the lineup before getting to the seasons because we found the conversations so enjoyable. Maybe because Jorunn and I both have silver hair, we're both 60. And also to acknowledge that the hardest thing about hair color might be getting the choice right in the first place. So often we love silver on someone else, but we resist the choice for ourselves. And yet the silver may be the most beautiful color we can wear, helping our skin look younger, meaning smoother and brighter to a degree that has often surprised me. We might see the transition as unattractive in ways that nobody else would agree with.
Well, you're going in the right direction and people will cheer you on, I'm sure. Among the many things that I love about silver, along with the sophistication, is the peace. Dye can be great, but everyone can see that it's hair color, or put it another way, dye you can't detect is rare as hen's teeth, which I wanted to say teeth on a chicken, but Christine stopped me.
I hope I'm right. The expression would be hen's teeth. And it's true. I've been thinking a lot about how our appearance choices are going to change in the next 2 years. I wonder if we're going to look more authentic and individual and less, let's say, labor intensive, either from necessity, like when hair salons closed and they could do so again at any moment, or out of a desire to simplify our lives and get closer to home in many ways. Appearance is just one of them. Doors will be more open than ever, I think, for looking like ourselves and keeping our values and beliefs consistent with our actions. We'll want as little strain in our relationships and barriers in our communications than ever before. What's your sense of this, Jorunn?
Well, I'm hoping that you and I are part of a movement towards looking like ourselves as the standard we're being measured against. I'll say that being as authentic as possible in the way we look and the way we live must be infinitely easier to keep up. I don't think it will lead to more elaborate looks. I think being authentic and real can be expressed in any kind of setting. Back to basics doesn't mean that pajamas and bunny slippers will be the new office outfits after we crawl out of our home offices and back to our workplaces. But I agree that there will be just so many changes. In the years to come, we'll be talking about BC and AC as meaning before Corona and after Corona. At least in my family, we talk a lot about this. It's just nothing's going to be the same again. But as a Norwegian, I refuse to believe that one has to be uncomfortable in order to look polished.
Yeah, it's too soon to know what the long-term changes will be. I think we will work alone more at home, and I think we will go back to collaborating to work. But that traditional office outfit, I think that there are some changes in store. I don't think we'll go back to that. Like Jorunn, every conversation I've had in the past 2 months has been about rethinking, recentering, in every aspect of our lives. It'll be some time before we go back to makeup testers, for example. It's awfully
Mm.
hard to digitize makeup trials the way you can try on hairstyles because the colors in the face that would react are locked. Right now, women are loving that cosmetics customized to season. You just buy them online. The details of how a given product looks on each woman in the season might differ slightly, but you'll be so much closer to home when you start out. And adapting tends to be pretty easy when the color is very close to yours.
Yes. Customized makeup by season is a way to kind of weed out the impossible options in any case. And I've been thinking that surely there will be little testers available to a much larger extent because, as you said, we're probably never going back to being able to stick our fingers in tubes and jars in the shops.
Yeah, not for a long time. Many women had already stopped. I think
Mm.
there's a glue that keeps us in place when things are booming along. We're very busy, and appearance wise, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Then a situation like this comes along. We've got time to try things. I'm growing out my bangs. I don't know why I need time to do that, but they're now at my cheekbones. I did go through some pebbles, pebbles Flintstone stages. When I just clipped it up, urine was treated to those many times. Ur- Urine, have you made any personal changes or shifts in your appearance over the past weeks? I know you'd found a style that was working for you before the lockdowns began.
Well, I'm discovering hair bands, but
Yes.
other than that, it's just been a little longer between each hairdressing appointment, and I haven't made any other changes.
As someone who loves beauty that looks real for the woman, and I know I can speak for Yorin when I say this too, silver is a color to take advantage of. You actually see younger women dyeing their hair silver.
Hmm. I don't understand it because I'm thinking, why go gray before you need to? But that's the young people for you. And it has been a trend for a while, hasn't it? I've noticed it so much on young women in Norway also. It just kind of makes my head turn in the grocery line when I see it. It's like so incongruent.
Yeah, I agree. I find there's always something a bit wig-like about it. Never looks like real hair to me. I imagine the reason behind it is just to try something different. Today's conversation will be about our natural silver color or color that's used to mimic our silver until the natural color has time to grow in, to bridge the transition in one process.
In a recent show, we talked about our belief that all seasons silver equally well. We talked about the myth that gray hair is best on cool seasons. And we both kind of thought that it is just a myth. And in preparing for these shows, we asked Courtenay what she thought, if she agreed.
And she did. She did. One of the reasons that we might believe gray hair, and I use the term, we use the term gray and silver interchangeably. We may believe gray is best in cool seasons, is because we've seen that knockout combination of beautiful silver hair on true or bright winter coloring. If we measure our natural gray against the standard of the bright winter, true winter, or true summer, yeah, we might sell our own color short. But these days, color analysis is more widely available and understood. We can all embrace the grays that are intrinsic to our palette, our natural hair color in all of its seasonal variety.
Hmm. As hair grows more towards neutral, when it silvers, we should counter this by adding eye makeup or eyeglasses to recover some definition in darkness or geometry. Back in episode 3, I think it was, we called it Changing Colors with Maturity. We talked about whether we change how we use the color palette in our mature years, whether we dye it or not. Um, Dye our hair or not is what I'm thinking about.
Mhm.
We had some pretty good tips in that episode, didn't we? If we may say so ourselves, right, Christine?
Yeah. Well, I love so many things about podcasting, like hanging out with my buddy and podcast partner, Yoren, and bringing you lots of content to digest while you peel carrots. I listen to podcasts, especially when I cook. Although I'm listening to more all the time, they're great in the car. And high on our values list is bringing our readers and listeners the most current version of our thoughts about color and appearance. Folks sometimes ask questions about a post from 3 years ago on the 12 Blueprints site, and the truth is, I might not say the same things today. Even a post from 1 year ago. I'm upgrading my knowledge base with every person I see, every student I teach, and the learning will never end. So, yes to wearing season colors after hair silvers because it has a bigger beauty payoff than ever before. Using any definition of beauty that you prefer, any style adaptation that you choose over time. Even if you wear sweats all day, you look better wearing your own colors.
And Courtney's and our adamant advice is cut off the old color ASAP. It's better to have short hair in a great cut in your beautiful natural silver shade. But let's say your color has grown out, but you're not quite ready to lose any length and you're not sure what your natural hair color would be today. Maybe you darkened in your 20s and then began silvering and started coloring your hair. And it's now like 10 years later, and who knows how much color is left or what it would be. And this is where cheap, fast, easy, and good may not coexist. It can be done, just accepting a little more risk. Get around that by keeping away from extremes. Half and half color is for the under 30s, if anyone, but who knew salons would close for weeks on end, months on end, and they might again. Bringing half and half color to one uniform shade is a job left to the salon, much better left to it. But COVID color being what it is, or feeling prepared for the next time salons are closed, you'd be doing an experiment on two levels. First, two types of hair texture, in that silver and dyed hair have different textures. They do. And then you also know that your 25-year-old hair dye might be too dark or intense. So we say it again, know your season. Stay with your instinct of what your color might be relative to the 25-year-old shade and do small areas. You don't have to do it all at once. Take 10 strands underneath, leave a half-inch layer on top unchanged, and then see what happens.
Here's a tip I think is extremely useful. Use your natural shade of silver as a guide for hair color. It's at least as important as whatever your younger color was, which serves more as a general darkness and color family guide. That means you need to see enough of the silver to gauge the color. So red-brown dye might be too warm for your color of gray, too dark for your color of gray, and you'd see it right away next to the gray, whereas you might not think of it next to your face. Same with straw blonde. Reacquaint yourself with your silver and your earlier life color. Colors on boxes can help, but you can't know if a color is too warm or cool for you by looking at it without a color analysis. You can tell a lot more by comparing the sample hair at the store or in the chart to see if it's compatible with your silver. Covering your current hair color or dye, or see if the sample hair is compatible with your color palette if you have one, which I hope colorists ask about anyway. The boxes of hair color products, they only indicate relative degrees of warm or cool or how bright the color will turn out.
So let's do a little recap here. The color your hair was when you were young serves as an excellent guide to how dark you can go when it comes to hair color, and it kind of gives you this general color family. And the way you silver is a great guide for choosing hair color in your mature years. And with COVID-19 forcing us to become more or less like hermits, it's an excellent chance to get reacquainted with your natural hair color, whether it's silver or color, or your color with some streaks of steely gray, soft pewter, or sunshine silver. Use this time. Use this new knowledge to create your new hair color chart.
Yes. Yeah, use this time is, I think, advice we're all trying to apply. And choose a color compatible with your silver or your current color That's at any age. The 25-year-old color, what you had when you were 25, that's kind of a mental reset button, not necessarily a box to go out and buy, unless you're still, let's say, under 35 or 40. It's a place to start. In our mature years, hair color that's being held onto from 15 years ago or more, it will probably be too intense or too dark. And then it looks like someone else's hair, or gives an impression we're in a struggle with ourselves somehow. The point being, choose your hair color for your current self. I gotta say, some of the most flattering hair colors I've seen has been wigs for women undergoing chemotherapy, because the color was chosen for the person they are today.
But dye can be great. Courtney has beautiful colored hair and chooses to continue coloring, but her natural color is visible and not that different from the dye. She also has the expertise to keep the look consistent and natural. We just want it to look like it happened by itself, prioritizing your beautiful face over your beautiful hair. And for sure, your beautiful face over your beautifully dyed hair.
Maybe also the importance of going another level. When you ask yourself, if I go natural, what am I worried about? Well, a woman might say, I'm worried the color will be too dark. Okay, too dark for what? Too dark for your other colors? I guarantee it won't. Nobody ever had natural hair color that was too dark for them. Who do you know whose hair is too dark for them?
Nobody. Makes me think that possibly this woman you're talking about, this example, maybe she dyed her hair too light and
Yeah,
that made her.
I agree. I think that's the problem, is they are not with the natural color, but we're still only halfway to the real answer. Let's say a woman said, I'm worried gray will look boring. Okay, boring for what? Or for whom? Usually where the answer may be hiding, someone else wants us to look a certain way. The answer is not to keep dying. It's to find solutions that have worked for other women who had the same concern. And there are thousands who found ways to make gray hair look as exciting as ever.
But Christine, we always think that what we're given isn't good enough. Everybody, we're just like that. So, if you have curly hair, you think, oh, I wish my hair was straight. And if you're born with straight hair, you think, oh, I wish my hair was curly. And oh, it's just, I think we're wired for self-deprecation.
I do too. And I'm starting to think we never outgrow it, which is
Yeah.
kind of worrying me. But,
Mm.
has anybody seen the recent transformations for Jane Fonda, Sharon Osbourne? These are pictures I keep thinking about, kind of like the CEO picture from the last episode. They get stuck in my head. These ones are so, so beautiful. A relief, a fantastic improvement. Now, that woman is owning her life. You could see it when she walked on the stage. It gave me chills. And we can't be the only ones who think so. The colorist is apparently booked like forever. With more consumer requests, colorists are going to become highly skilled at silver hair. Check the link, pardon me, is down in the show notes, and look at the other images while you're there. I mean, really, I wanted to stand on my chair for the joy and the liberation these women were feeling, to say nothing of fresh, clean, glossy hair color. It's awesome. You go, sister, you go. That woman is now fully here and fully available. I think sometimes we get stuck in this loop of a choice and not knowing how to get out. But we have to open the door or close the door. We have to say, enough is enough. And I get so excited when it happens. Like a woman is beating her wings, she's soaring higher with every beat. More weight drops off, falls away. Joran, what was your honest reaction to those images?
Oh my God, Christine, I almost cried. I almost cried for joy when I looked at those images. It was really powerful. And I must say to everyone who listens to this podcast, you have to go to the show notes on Chrysalis Color. Click on the link about Jane Fonda and Sharon Osbourne and look at all those before and after photos of the colorist clients. It's not just Jane Fonda and Sharon Osbourne, there's others there. And what amazes me most is that the women look younger in a gray that's pretty close to their natural gray hair. It doesn't have to be their perfect silver, and it's still less artificial looking than color dye. But I think the takeaway here is hairstyle. It's not only that these women are going gray, it's also about a great haircut, great gray haircut.
Both, right?
Yeah, these women, they've all been given amazing hairstyles.
They look like the queens that they are, right?
Mm.
Every woman has a queen inside. Check out the last woman. Watch that short video. Now, that is what I am talking about. If letting go had a face. Oh, I had tears in my eyes for her. I love this guy. I love that women's choices are getting better, brighter, freer. And I love anyone who helps that to happen. As women, we are so sensitive to our collective history and memory. The minute we put our head up, someone comes along and takes a swipe at us, and we can't forget, but we can try to let go and move into a braver, better world that has a place for all of us, one from which we mustn't exclude ourselves because we got so busy that we didn't notice change.
Hmm. With something as simple as hair color, these women kind of meet themselves again. And it's not that they didn't feel fear. I think they felt the fear and made the choice to move ahead all the same. Feel the fear and do it anyway, like you've said to me so many times.
Right? Yeah. Saying people who bring in change don't feel fears, like saying they're immune to pain, it is not true at all. Sometimes things aren't working out for us because the world is like, well, like, yeah, but you're saying one thing and you're doing another. How am I supposed to know what you mean? It's not personal, it's just how things operate. I'm not meaning to be preachy. I'm just saying that getting our appearance parts together or any single part of our lives could be exercise, any change we make for the better can bring improvement in every other aspect of our lives. I really believe that.
Mm. Well, until we get our other podcast on the air, the one we talk about all the time, life and the universe, this will be our empowerment episode.
Yeah, I actually don't have any problem with that. Yorin, you have one of the best hair colors and styles of anybody I know. And you've said that when you went silver was because you were tired of upkeep, but was there any fear?
Oh, you're so sweet. No, I can't really think that it was fear-based, but when I stopped dyeing my hair, there was a fair bit of dark brown still in it, and I had always used semi-permanent dye, so I didn't have to cut it very short to avoid the raccoon phase. And as I've said before, I have a great hairdresser, and she supported me 100% and cheered me on in my decision to let the gray evolve like naturally. Maybe as fear goes, my fear of looking like I was ungroomed because I didn't color the roots often enough was bigger than my fear of having silver streaks in my hair. And the other reason is what I call intentional spending. I'm not really a thrifty penny pinching person, but I'm very selective on what I spend money on. And I would rather spend my money on outrageously expensive lipstick and some good quality clothing than on coloring my hair every 3 weeks.
That's a useful point that you make there that I wanted to repeat was when you're ready to make the transition to silver, start switching over to less permanent dye.
Yeah. And Courtney's advice is don't get too dramatic all at once. Let some gray be there. It kind of looks more like real hair then, and it's modern, meaning in sync with the present. So be careful of doing the whole head, alternating colors every time. Do it every 2 weeks. This is when you do it yourself, of course. Do only a quarter to a half inch. Mix a third of color at a time. Look for places where steely or gray shows up, but don't take it all out. Do around the face and over the ears where hair tends to get white, and do parts and natural parts that exist somewhere else on the head and which tend to be exposed when your hair gets fluffed by a breeze. And Courtney also had some good advice about men and hair color. For men who don't want white or silver hair, when hair is shorter, White will be more visible as it grows in, particularly if the hair is thin and fine. A short cut trimmed every 3 weeks and all over color every 1 to 2 weeks, whereas that's what she said works best for men.
I think that upkeep for men has got to be at least as intensive as for women, if not more so. And their hair can look just as chemically colored. So, as for women, there does come a time to acknowledge that wearing his silver is the best decision he can make.
Hmm. Colored dark hair can look natural when the hair is very short, which is most often the case for men. Once the hair is over 1 inch long, spots of undercolor whites and grays become more visible against the darkness of the dye. And also, after 2 applications of all over color, the hair will get more brittle and appear monochromatic. The texture is going to become more brittle as it gets repeatedly colored as well. And if your hair is thicker and longer, then you might be able to get away with less frequent haircuts and coloring.
Joran, how about we talk about some other tips, maybe just summarize and bring up a few new things for making the silver you have the most beautiful possible. You can Google or ask your hairstylist. They'll suggest plenty of great ideas and products. I did search how to enhance gray hair without dye, but there are some ideas that have worked for us. The first one, and I think many people with silver hair experience this, is to look out for yellow or orange if it's not part of your natural silver color. I once lived in a farmhouse. There was a lot of rust in the well water. Everything turned orange, the washing machine, clothing, hair. So water filters can work. Your colorist may have toners that bring down the yellow. And Redken makes a shampoo called Cleansing Cream. It's a very good deep cleaning shampoo to use every 2 to 4 weeks. It removes buildup, it removes product, and can help take away some of those colors.
That's excellent advice. And also, let's mention the silver enhancing shampoos with violet tones, not violent tones.
That's not us at all.
Violently violet tones. Those might help, but not so often that your hair turns violet. We often say that summers look great with violet or blue cast in the hair, but to me it's a little unnatural and a bit cliche unless it's done in the intentional spirit of play. Aveda makes blue malva shampoo that's well liked, and just be aware to adjust how often you use it. It kind of makes me think of little old purple haired ladies on cruise ships if you overdo it.
Yeah, nobody has blue or purple hair, but it can work depending on the spirit of the woman. Do you yourself use any special silver enhancing treatments or care products?
You think I would admit to that after talking about the little purple-haired ladies on the cruise ships? No, no. Well, I must say I have tried them, but I'm afraid the blue shampoos will take away the yellow cast that you've told me harmonizes my hair with my skin, and I always listen to you. I have tried some silicone shine oils, and I don't know. I just think they make my hair greasy, so I don't do that. So,
Yeah, well, I'm happy to say I agree with myself. I think that if something took down that little bit of warmth, that little bit of yellow in your hair, the I think the texture would look dry, and I think the color would be severe. It would not work as well with your skin as the color that you have. Tip number 3, and again, we've said it, but we'll say it one more time: color less, cut more.
God, I love it when you say that. Let's say it again. Color less, cut more. Great
Yep.
haircut.
Got a few more. I'm on a roll here. Keep the style neat, but in keeping with the natural texture. I love hairstylists who specialize in working with hair's natural texture, because the more I pay attention to this, the more certain I am that the texture we were born with is the one that looks best, or something close to it. And even more so once our clothing colors, our clothing lines suit our body type. And I believe this is true in women of all ethnic and racial backgrounds. Would it be your belief as well, Jorn? Do you think I've been too broad?
No, 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 no. There's been such a trend of over straightening hair over here as well. Even Scandinavian hair, which is kind of straight to begin with. I mean, they straighten it rod straight. It's very strange.
Yeah, it brings out a lot of asymmetry in the face, doesn't it? And I kind of think of it as a trend that is starting to move away from us. It reminds me a little bit of the permed hair trend from many years ago. The women who look great with silver hair, they have some things in common. They have a gorgeous cut. If they wear makeup, it works with their colors, including the silver hair. And so take advantage of the great products we have, but stay closer to your hair's natural texture.
Hmm. Let's repeat that in our silver years, which might be when you're 35 or when you're 60, depending on how early you go gray, you have even more reason for wearing your season palette.
It does. Yeah, it's true. Any silver improves surrounded by its own color harmony. Bright season brilliance, dark season strong impression, summer's gorgeous tonality, the spirit and glow of the warm seasons, the graceful colors of the light seasons, spring's vitality, all have amazing silvers or threads of pale gold in spring's case.
Well, yeah, any season's hair can be dulled enough by wrong colored clothing that the woman starts to doubt that her natural color is the way to go.
Yeah, it's not just about white. Even wearing grays that enhance your gray, like our cover model. We sometimes hear advice to wear charcoal or aluminum grays or jewel tones once we silver. And I got to say, I respectfully disagree. I respectfully and entirely disagree. If a spring wore the jacket in the photo, she'd look overwhelmed and her natural radiance would be drained. Her clothing would look severe or bulky, like she's maybe wearing a man's jacket.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, let's return to shine. We talked about shiny hair earlier, but it would be depending on your hair's texture and style, don't you think? Like a shine product without color or a shine treatment from your stylist is great.
Absolutely, but take it easy. Nothing should look forced or artificial or greasy. A lion with a super shiny mane would look like he was wearing a plastic collar. Follow the natural reflectivity of your hair and skin as a guide and maybe just bring it up a little. What looks luscious on a spring may look greasy on an autumn. Winter's gloss may look hard or be aging to summer skin.
Hmm. Speaking of skin, the series at Chrysalis Color on the best skin polish for the seasons can be applied to hair as well. And I recommend these great articles by Christine. We'll put links in the show notes. Color and texture are closely related because they determine the interaction with light, as does shape, of course.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about the seasons. Now, talking about the silver here, very much generalizations, but what could I say about winter's silver hair? What could we say? The word steely often comes to my mind, meaning there's a hardness about it. Speaking now about how it reflects light, my hair's about a third gray. Might not seem steely, but you're seeing it mixed in with pigmented hair woven into a head of silver hair from another season, it might seem more foreign. Gray is very, very adaptable. As we said about the celebrities going gray, you don't have to get it so perfect. So, color wise, it might be fine, but too much shine product, the autumn in me is going to make the hair look oily, not clean with natural shine. Summer hair, different. Summer hair, like summer skin, can have a cottony or satin reflectivity interaction with how it reflects light, but it's not really ever glassy or glittery. It's not tinsel. I think quiet would be a better description.
Hmm. Autumn hair can be very velvety or smooth, but beyond its natural reflectivity, like with a super smoothing ironing treatment, might make it appear slick and artificial. And wearing too bright color can make your hair look duller. That can happen in any season. Back to autumns, aim for shine that's lustrous without being a mirror. Burnished, shimmering, and glorious are the words that often work for autumns.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how we can raise the reflectivity or drop it, make it duller, and neither of which makes our hair look as good as it possibly can. And this all applies to silver hair. So, spring words: luminous, radiant, sparkling. Hair might be textured. Not every spring has perfectly smooth, straight hair. You may find a shine product that adds the right kind of shine. You're looking for pinpoints of sunlight dancing all through the hair, lots of movement, lots of sparkle, and it wouldn't look greasy at all because of this gorgeous continuity with how your colors, your skin, your eyes, your cosmetics, all of you already reflects light. Nothing would stand apart.
Mm. Yes, and let's touch on makeup. Silver hair doesn't dull skin. If anything, I find it adds youth to the texture compared to dyed hair. But if the woman is light in complexion and wears neutral clothing, the effect can be a gray circle. And I can't stress enough how important eyeglasses are for us with silver hair. Finding the right eyeglass frames according to your season is important at any age, but it's super important as we transition to gray. It can kind of be an alternative to makeup. Be careful of rimless eyeglasses. Use your season palette and pick glasses with frames in one of your signature colors or one of your best neutrals. Another way to define features in the face is to enhance the color of the eyebrows using mustache and beard coloring for men. I saw this great tutorial on YouTube for this, and I think we'll link to that, Christine, right?
Absolutely. I think that'd be a real nice, a real easy tip to use. So, makeup, yes, to define the features, elevate the overall color effect, and now that the hair is a neutral color, raise the overall energy of the appearance, because as hair becomes more neutral color, energy might go down, or, as Rioran says, the big gray circle effect. I certainly see summers with silver hair who look terrific in rimless frames, but they do wear some cosmetics. Same advice for makeup, eyeglasses as hair. Don't wear colors out of your season. Your hair color is pre-designed to work with your skin at every age. So follow your blueprint.
Well, on that incredibly Canadian dry humor, we will end this show, I think. We hope you've had as much fun listening as we've had putting this episode together. And as always, we really appreciate your comments and suggestions. You can write to us by email or leave comments. And if you're listening to this podcast on a streaming service that allows it, we would be so happy if you rate and review the podcast. We would love to have more listeners like you.
We would indeed. Tune in next time when we'll finally cover hair color according to the seasons, beginning with summer. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye, Yoren.
Bye.